didn't grab a clicker. I'm sorry. I will be right back. Okay. I am excited, a little too excited, obviously. So I'm Brian Riches. I'm an applied developmental scientist. So what that means is I'm a psychologist. I do science. I do research to try and help understand things that we've all been talking about the last few days. I'm interested in heroism, and I'm interested in purpose in life. So I'm here to share with you a toolkit that my team has created over the last 3 years, and specifically for young people in the audience. We've heard a lot of social problems that have been talked about the past few days. And so these toolkits can help you find what's most meaningful to you. What do you want to engage with? What do you want to do beyond the self? What do you find to bring you that meaning and that purpose in life? So before I show you the toolkit, I want to show you a couple comments from some of the students who completed these things. So this is from a high school senior, a real person, who said, having a sense of purpose means knowing what you were made for and having something that you can fit yourself into and think, wow, that's my thing. That is what I was made for. And he said, for me, that thing is music. Another student said, the thing that matters most to me is making a difference in the world. I don't want to just exit and be a renter on Earth. And then a final student said, in history class, I've been paying attention to recent events and also the news. And I try to be more educated to get something, so when something like the refugee crisis comes up, I know in the future I may be able to fix it. So some of the faculty members in the room might think, I wish more of my students were like Carlos. And some students in the room might be thinking, I wish I had a clear direction like Kaylee. Well, that's a common question for young people. How do I leave my mark on the world? And it's a question that people have asked over history. So when I did a quick Google search the other day on life purpose and meaning in life, I found over 1 billion results. So this is a common question. So it's a normal thing to be asking and wondering about for high schoolers, for young college students. The problem is, unfortunately, only 20% of young people can identify their purpose. So that's why those of us at the Adolescent Moral Development Lab in Southern California at Claremont Graduate University, we created this toolkit to help young people find that purpose, get and take some steps towards that, set some goals. So first of all, what is purpose then? And how is it related to heroism? So purpose, this is our academic definition that we use. So for those of you academics in the audience, this will be great, is a stable and generalized intention to accomplish something that is meaningful to the self and leads to engagement with some aspect of the world beyond the self. There you go. That is the purpose of life. So it's decoded there. Well, maybe not completely. So let's jump into each of those points of that definition. So the first is goals. One element of purpose is to use meaningful goals to direct behavior, both short and long-term goals. However, those things that are far horizon goals and contributing to the world beyond the self, those are the things that are a purpose in life. So an example of the goal to visit the mountains this weekend, that might be a meaningful activity, and it's obviously a goal, but it doesn't represent something beyond the self, so it doesn't fit as a purpose. Alternatively, contributing to a personally meaningful environmental cause might be a life purpose. So for example, visiting the mountains in order to work towards preventing strip mining might be a goal leading to a purpose. So now let's jump into the meaning portion of this. The second component of purpose is meaningfulness. So with that, this describes the idea that the motivation for pursuing a purpose comes from within. So from within all these young people in the audience. So that meaningfulness creates an intrinsic motivation. Purposes are so personally meaningful that we feel the need to actively invest our time, our energy into their pursuit. And we've seen a lot of people over the past few days who have that purpose. You see that drive. And so when you imagine a young person who has a purpose to be a doctor, to help people in that way, they'll be engaged and invested in their schooling. They'll be less likely to drop out. They'll work hard through hard problems. So the final piece of purpose is this beyond the self component. And that's what really connects very well with here at the Hero Roundtable, doing things beyond ourselves, getting outside of ourselves. So trying to make a difference in the broader world. Another example here. So seeking one's fame or fortune might represent a sense of personal meaning, but it does not represent a purpose in life. On the other hand, someone who's seeking to make enough money to care for their family may represent a source of purpose for that person's life because it involves contributing to others. And there's a lot of other examples of purpose. So things like contributing to the broader world by enhancing the environment, caring for animals, creating new forms of art, or helping those in need are some examples of some goals that are beyond the self that can be meaningful to an individual and be a purpose in life. So some of the most common purposes are things around family, like caring for or raising a family, a faith, a personal faith, so serving the country, and also jobs. So with that, these purposes, they aren't some abstract, fuzzy idea. They're really concrete things, concrete goals that are beyond yourself, that you find meaningful to yourself. And that's what our toolkit is intended to do, to help young people work through those things. So how is it related to heroism? I'll hit this point really quick so I can share you some of the activities really quickly. So one example of how purpose is related to heroism is in purpose-guided heroism. So this is Oscar Romero. He ended up being the Archbishop of San Salvador, but as a young person, he had some signs of purpose. He felt a purpose towards God. And as he grew up and was mentored, he ended up becoming the Archbishop of San Salvador. His position there allowed him a platform to speak out against the torture of the people in the area, about the social injustice and the poverty. And it ended up leading to his assassination by the same people who he was speaking out against. So he's an example of someone who developed a purpose over the course of his life as a young person that led him to do heroic action in that same context. Another example is Miep Gies, who's a great example of heroism-guided purpose. So she and her family were the ones that helped the Frank family during World War II and hid them from the Nazis. So they did that as friends, as someone who was concerned and caring for other people. But with that heroism of their family led to a purpose, and in the future she helped many more people as well. So there are a lot of benefits to purpose in life. Young people who have a purpose in life have better coping skills, resilience, prosocial behavior, greater hope, and greater well-being. They also have a decrease in depression, anxiety, boredom, loneliness, and disengagement. So purpose really helps make life worth living. So students with a purpose in life are less likely to drop out of school. They're more likely to do better in their schooling than those without a purpose. So now I want to share with you some of our activities in brief. If you want to get a more hands-on feel for them, come to my breakout session today at 2, and you'll be able to just bring your smartphone or tablet. You'll be able to do some of these activities. Well, how we created these activities was all started with interviews. We found that young people that we interviewed about their purpose, after that, they had a slight increase in their scores on purpose. So we thought, well, what are ways that we can get young people to reflect on what's meaningful? What are goals that they want to do? What are they doing beyond the self? Or what would they like to do? So one of the first and last activities that young people do in our program is this email activity. We give them a little script to send to 5 mentors, 5 people that are important to them. That's things like coaches, mentors, teachers, maybe grandparents or parents. And they ask these people, what are my talents? What do you think I'm good at? How do you see me impacting the world in the future? And we see that students who get these responses back have a great experience seeing, well, this is what my father, or this is what my coach, this is what my mentor sees in me. And it might be a little different than what they see in themselves, but it gives them more ideas on how to do things. One of the most popular activities is the tattoo activity. We ask young people to design a personally meaningful tattoo, something that is related to their long-term goals, their meaning, or what they want to do beyond the self. And so they do that, and then they put it on themselves. When we do this activity online, we ask people to draw it. They can also draw it on themselves. What we find when we do this in the classroom is that when using temporary ink, obviously, these students go home and their parents are wondering, well, why do you have a tattoo? What is this on your body? And it opens up the area for conversation. So this is why it's meaningful to me. This is something that's important to me. And so the people that are close to these young people will ask them about it and then support them in those activities. So we have videos describing purpose. We have things like best possible selves activities, to imagine your best possible selves in 5 or 40 years, and then set goals to get to that point. We have a lot of videos of celebrities who are talking about their purpose to show adolescents that their purposes are not very different than the things that are purposeful to them, that are meaningful, and the things that celebrities are trying to do beyond their self are also the same things that young people can do. We have a lot of quotes that they read from people from Buddha to Einstein about purpose and applying it to their own lives. We have adolescents sort their values, try and figure out what is the most meaningful, what do I want to focus on, and many, many more. So with that, how do we know these activities work? Well, as a scientist, we did experiments. So some of the first experiments were exclusively in high schools. We took these activities, a big number of them. We had students try them out, and they worked, and we got feedback from the teachers, things that students liked, things that they didn't like, and then we put them online. We put these activities online and tried them out with college students, did more experiments, did more testing, and more refining of these activities. And then finally, we created this full toolkit and tested it with both high school and college samples. So in each of these, we find results like this. 75% of students increased their searching for purpose due to these activities. And 50% of students increased their identified purpose. So even for those students who did not find their purpose over the week-long course, which is a short time, they gained tools to help them find their individual purpose. They were more set and more ready. And the final experiment is actually happening right now. Even though my email there is in blue, feel free to come up and ask for my card. If you are a teacher and you'd like to get your students involved, let me know. There's also scholarship opportunities, and there's also this website that you can go to if you're a teacher or a young person, and all the activities are there for free for anybody to use. So we've created these over the last 3 years. We've tested them out. They work. We're excited about them, and we'd love for you to use them. So feel free to use them, and feel free to also contact me and come to the breakout session today at 2. Thank you very much.
The Hero Roundtables are the global events that ask the question, what is a hero? You've just seen one hero talk. To find more and join the conversation, visit our website or social media.